Welcome to How Would You Write It? I'm your host, Nania Taylor, and this is a podcast where we get a chance to talk about the craft, the processes, and the creative direction behind our favorite stories. Today, I am so very grateful and thankful to have Joseph Rodriquez. He has over 13 years of experience under his belt as a screenwriter. He started off as a production consultant on a British drama called The Ends. Then he moved into comedy right after graduating from Texas State University and has been a guest 24 times on Sirius XM radio and DirecTV audience networks, The Artie Lang Show. He also appeared on the Norm Macdonald's live podcast and Netflix talk shows. He's currently developing a bold sitcom called Masc Couple, for short for masculine couple, correct?
Mm.
Okay. With two-time Emmy-nominated actor Paris Dillon. Joseph, thank you so much and welcome to How Would You Write It?
Thanks for having me, Tay.
I'm so glad you're here. We get to talk about your sitcom that you let me read. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But can you give the audience a little short synopsis of what this series is going to be about?
Well, I let anyone read it who wants to. So they ask, I'll send it to them.
And we're gonna give out your contact information right after right in this interview, so people can reach out to you for copies of it.
Oh, yeah. I just had someone right now who was DMing me on Threads who was asking, following up with me about something, and I was like, "Oh, okay," in a little bit.
Get it
But
back to you a little bit.
it's a show that I came up with. I had watched another sitcom, which is actually in its fifth season, called The Miss Pat Show, and oh yeah, it's great. I need to catch up. They're in the middle right now of the fifth season, but that was the first that I know of. I think there have been a couple others technically, but that was the first TVMA sitcom I'd ever seen with a live studio audience.
Mm-hmm.
There had been TVMA shows before, obviously, but nothing. That was all single camera. Shows, and this was a multi-camera with a studio audience and everything, an old school style show,
Mm-hmm.
and I had never seen that before, and
And
I
this
was like, well, if she,
and this
yeah.
reading your script, this does meet that. Now, when you said, I'm like, yes, I can see it now. Yes, I'm sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, it's okay. Yeah, because I tell people all the time, I go, do you know the difference between like a single camera and a multi-camera show? And they're like, yeah. And I go, well, what's a multi-camera show? And they'll say something like The Office. I go, no, that's a single camera show. I
Mm-hmm.
goes, single camera is like that, like The Office or uh, Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Multi-camera show is like Friends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or Living Single. That's in front of a live studio audience where they edit it down like that with multi cameras, different shooting different things at different times and then editing it together. And so I had the idea for the show probably a little over, no, probably about a year ago at work, and I just kind of jotted down the synopsis. And I had reached out to the actor Paris Dillon, who I knew through a mutual friend, a comedian, and I told him the idea, and I go, "Hey, I got a couple of pages written. Would you be interested in reading it and starring in it?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." I go, "Okay, well." I didn't tell him I had written three different versions of it, so at the same time, and
Mm-hmm.
I just started off a couple of different pages, and it pretty much told the same story, but it just started in different places and ended the same way. And I go, okay, well, give me like a week, and I'll write it out, for you, and you can have something to look at. And so the idea was, an intergenerational couple, one older millennial, like 40, and a younger Gen Z, mid 20s, um, gay couple, interracial, who get engaged, and they meet and they get engaged after dating for a month, and they move in together. And I always had this idea for a TV show because now seasons are so short, they're 8, 10, 12 episodes max. And sometimes they span a long time over a whole year. I go, well, what if you just had every episode takes place during like a special event, There's a Halloween episode, a Thanksgiving episode, of Christmas, a wedding, of anniversary, whatever. I go, that would make it easier to space it out, that way. And so I did that. And the first episode is about their homecoming um, party, um, and kind of I guess, also an engagement party type thing. They've already told people that they're engaged, but um, so I wrote that and I really liked it. And I wrote three different versions and I got the ball rolling. And it's been, here about 6 months, and I'm trying to slowly but surely get fundraising going so we can start to shoot the pilot, hopefully sometime this year. So.
Well, I am excited to talk about it. And again, thank you so much for allowing me to read it. And thank you again for coming on. So let's get into the series. Okay, let's talk about it. One of my first questions are Chris and James are an interracial, like you said, intergenerational couple who move kind of fast. Like you said, they're a month, you know. What truth were you chasing by accelerating the relationship instead of letting it simmer, like getting us into them getting to know each other and then moving, what was
I
that?
mean, yeah, I've always heard those stories about people who get together real fast and get married real fast, but you never really see it in TV shows and movies. If it is, it's kind of like, oh, it's an affair or it's something like that. So I was like, well, do people still do that nowadays? And I think if you showed two different people in two different stages of their life, in particular, but they both want the same things. One is 25 and the other one's 40. Why can't they just get together and it just happen real fast? It's like they know it when they see it, type of thing. So,
I know I just read somewhere about a couple who met on a night in Las Vegas. They didn't get married in Las Vegas. They didn't do that. But they met in Las Vegas. And when they got back home to their separate places, like they were like, we miss each other. And they moved in with each other within a month. So,
yeah.
and then they got married 3 months later. So it
Yeah.
happens. It
And I
happens.
plan on showing a flashback episode of when they actually met, because they say that they meet at a party,
Mhm.
for it's a retirement party for Chris's coworker, and that's how it all gets started. They meet in a bar, so I I want to write that one. That's going to be probably a little down the line, but if for the first season.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't anyway. Um, the pilot now balances raunchy humor, which is sort of kind of like the Miss Pat show, which I was like, I was like, God, this reminds me of something. So when you said it, I was like, Miss Pat show, that raunchy humor that brings you in, that has those emotional moments connected to it. Family tension, money, age, identity. How did you decide when a joke earns its place versus when it undercuts the moment? Because that was one of my major, like, how do you know when you're having an emotional moment to bring a joke in? I always wonder that. Like, how do you undercut that and still keep it fresh and still keep it moving without it being like, oh, okay, we're out of that emotional moment. We're into this funny moment.
Yeah. Well, I've always been a big admirer of Norman Lear sitcoms, from the 70s, and the way that those would flow organically. To me, it's a lot of situational stuff because the root of the show is, the couple, them versus the world type of situation. So it's like, oh, they have their best, James's best friend, or they have, exes that come in and out, or their families that are visiting, or whoever. But at the end of the day, it's them too. So it's like, they're going to play off of each other and be like on each other's side and have each other's backs. So that way you see that, point of view from them, like, oh, yeah, something serious may have happened, but, they're still going to make a joke out of, oh, well, that didn't happen to me, or, oh, it's been there, done that type of thing, so you can tell.
But I love that the family is so very accepting of everything. Like the moms are able to joke. The dad is a little bit kind of like, I'm accepting, but he's still kind of like some of the jokes. Like he'll be like, I'm gonna move on
Yeah.
and kind of change the subject a little bit. But I love that we're not in this. The family doesn't love them or appreciate them for them being who they are. And I appreciated reading something that we didn't have that trope, that they
Yeah.
have a supportive, loving family who wants them to be happy, even though everybody's kind of a little bit kind of like, oh, 30 days. But, I love that. And I love that the dynamics of their conversations where they can be open and be themselves with anyone being around them. So that was really fresh to see.
Yeah, the parents are probably my favorite characters to write. And that's just a generational thing because Chris's parents are obviously older, they're in their 60s. They're already retired. Whereas James's parents, they're divorced. And they're, probably like I think I'm right, I'm like in their 50s or so. And they're still technically working, although they have money, they're from money. I have them being a little different. They're Gen Xers versus baby boomers. So showing those dynamics with those two generations, as you see them in parents and episodes. And it was funny, a friend of mine, he always points out these little weird things in my scripts that he really enjoys. And he mentioned the moms, and he said, oh, the funniest part of the show was when the mom goes, I guess no one's ever heard of recycling, and she's cleaning up after them in the party, at the end in the backyard.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you wrote well-rounded characters and family dynamics that to me is fresh, and I love this. I
Yeah.
love. Okay.
I always write with certain actors in mind, and the parents I really kind of modeled after. I don't know if you ever saw the Carmichael show on
Yes.
NBC,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, definitely the mom is his mom, and the dad is kind of more like his dad. Who's the actress?
What is her name? She was a dream girl. What is my Loretta? No, is it not Loretta?
Loretta Devine. Yeah, Loretta
Loretta
Devine.
Devine?
Yeah, she was on this past season of the Miss Pat show too. I can't wait to see her. She's
Oh, I
so
didn't
funny.
see
She
that
was the
yet. Oh,
funniest.
wait a
Yeah,
minute.
she was the funniest.
I just got up to where their son they had their son arrested. I haven't seen it past that. I haven't seen it past that.
Okay. Yeah,
So
she was on this, I think, this past episode. But yeah, she was always the funniest character to me on the whole series, and I loved her
yeah,
reactions.
she was. Yeah, she really was. To me, she carried the show.
Oh yeah.
Carried the show. I loved her on Carmichael's. Okay. Now, every episode of Masc Couple centers around milestones, holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, but rarely goes as planned. Why are special days such powerful pressure cookers for the story?
Kind of just saw it as, I mean, at first it was kind of a gimmicky thing, but I was like, I wanted to see like how different them learning about each other, like what they do separately for the holidays or for their birthdays or how they celebrate or what their traditions are. And it's kind of that whole thing, about them learning about each other through that process. So it's like, well, that's what they may have used to do when they were growing up, but now that they're together, maybe they can start a new tradition or a lot of random funny stuff can happen to them. It's like, oh, well, now we got to deal with this. It's kind of that
And
situation.
I also felt it was real because
Yeah.
as a couple, one of the biggest pressures is when it's holidays and birthdays because you're dealing with other outside people coming in and their opinions and their presence, and you have to deal with that. You have to deal with each other. You have to deal with your pressure you're putting on yourself of how you're going to perform for Christmas and holidays and birthdays and stuff. So I felt like that was like, again, even though I like, yes, that was a good like kind of gimmick for each episode is going to be around that, but I also thought to see the growth of the couple on each
Mhm.
holiday, each milestone is going to be great to see because those dates and times and celebrations does kind of put pressure on a couple. It
Yeah.
puts pressure on a couple.
And the goal is hopefully is that at the end of the first season is to have the wedding be the last episodes. Make it like a 2 or 3 parter, like the reception, the wedding, and I don't think I'll go into the honeymoon. I'll probably save the honeymoon for the next season, but to have like a real long, because I love it in episodes where the wedding episode is really long. It's shows long parts. That's actually my favorite episode of All in the Family is the flashback to their wedding that Rob Reiner actually wrote. If you don't know, so he wrote that episode. That's the funniest episode of all time because it's seeing Archie with still new to meathead and his family and having to deal with them and the whole not wanting to get married by a minister and not trust wanting to elope and all this kind of stuff. I go, that's I like that part of that dynamic. It's so funny, it's outrageous, very
I
much a day of type stuff,
I didn't know he wrote that. Rest in peace.
Hmm.
But that, yeah,
Oh yes.
I love him.
Yeah.
Okay. This sitcom does not sanitize sensuality, generational differences, or cultural friction. Were there moments where you thought this might be too much and kept it in anyway?
Well, the my favorite version of the show is actually probably the most graphic of it. It starts out, um, you know, uh, with a sex scene in the beginning of it, and that one, the star was like, oh, I'm a little more apprehensive. I don't think that, and people would tell me, I like that version the most because it tells you right off the bat, this is what the show's about. It just lays it on the table. Whereas, their favorite version, which, I agree is very good too, is the one that starts out with them and the working out in the garage and everything. And I go, okay, well, that's fine with me. And the reason I just wrote it three different ways, I go, is if you wanted to ad lib any lines from the other ones that you liked, I like to give the actors space to, have fun and do different takes and do different things with it because, I hate it when you edit things and things are taken out, whole scenes where you see the, edited for TV type versions and things like that. And it makes me mad. I'm like, oh, why did they cut this joke out for time or whatever? And, that kind of stuff. So,
But still give us a hot scene, even if it's the honeymoon. So wait, give us
right.
a
I
scene.
mean, even if it's not visual, it's going to be talked about, or it's going to be, something, off color joke or whatever. If it's something with silhouettes or whatever, type of thing, or it's like the first scene that I had written where it was like, they were not like you could see the ring light, where it was like, they were OnlyFans models or something, and that was like just the whole joke of that together being that type of thing, and I was like, well, you don't really see that with, especially with live studio audiences. You don't see that on TV, period. It's like they don't show, nudity or anything like that. So it's like, what can you show and, what can you fake,
That's
And
how
so
it's going to be in front of a live studio audience.
I hope. I go, if we can't, I go, if we can't afford a studio audience, then I go, we'll make a laugh track, we'll record people, with all the reactions and then just
And cut
overdub
it
it
in, and then
later.
cut it in, and then
Yeah.
cut it in. Yes,
So it
yes.
sounds like this.
I'm for it. Okay. Give it to us. Give it to us. Even if, like I said, if it's the honeymoon scene or a flashback scene of their first time together, that would be nice.
Yeah, that would probably be with the whole flashback when they meet because I think I'm gonna tie it together. So have
Mm,
it all there. So,
okay. Developing this series with two-time Emmy-nominated actor Paris Dillon. How did that collaboration shape the tone or ambition of the project?
well, I told him, how I wanted to shoot it, old school style. Originally, he was a little confused because he was like, "Oh, we'll shoot it over, 2 or 3 days." And I go, "No, that's a single camera show. You only can shoot like 8 to 10 pages a day." I go, multi-camera shows, you're shooting it right then, the day of. If you've ever, I don't know if you've ever been in a studio audience of a TV show, but they shoot it over a few hours.
Mhm.
Some shows are faster than others. Like All in the Family, they used to shoot it over like 2 hours, and then they would shoot it again, and then they would edit those two copies together. But shows like Friends, I think they would shoot it like all day on like a Friday. It would be like 8 hours, and you're watching the whole series go, and the audience would just have to sit there all day and wait for them to do the
Did the
next
audience
scene.
get paid, or did they feed the audience?
No, no, they're this like if you're on like a studio tour and they ask you, hey, do you want to be in a studio audience for this show or whatever, and they just they're just there and they just are entertained for free all
Hopefully
day.
they pay them at least for 8 hours.
I hope so. I think they give them commissary or something, snacks or
Uh-uh.
yeah. And then they would have like a stand-up comedian or somebody there in between the scenes to entertain them, to keep them laughing because they want to keep them, up
Entertainment.
the whole
Yeah.
time, so they get the right reactions from them. So, So it was with him, and I talked about the show and about what I wanted to do, and how it was going to be a very guest star heavy show. A lot of there will be some recurring roles, obviously. The old rule as like you tell them, maybe we'll have you back, which is a nice way of saying, if you're popular and people like you, then they'll bring you back, for another episode or whatever. Um, and I told him I go, every holiday and that kind of thing, every special event. And he really liked the idea, TVMA type show like that, that hasn't been done. So it was very much a collaborative. And then he said, oh well, I'd like to direct it. And I go, oh okay, great, because I don't know anyone, I'm not a television director or anything like that. I go, the only thing I can really do is, I have in mind certain actors to be in it, who I'd like to see them audition. I can't guarantee that we can get them, but, you know, I can at least do that part, of the casting, help rehearse them and things like that, 'cause, yeah, there may be actors that you like and want to be in it, but if they don't work together, there's no chemistry. It's not going to work. You got to replace them. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when do you think, and I know I'm jumping ahead, this is not even one of my questions,
Yeah.
but when will the casting part come?
Well,
In-
yeah, as soon as we get the money, I mean, to for it, then we know what we can pay because, it's going to be just a one-off type of day. It's like, oh, whenever you have a couple of weeks free, it's like getting them when they're available. Um, hopefully we won't have to do like a big open casting type thing, and people can just send in tapes and, um, do auditions, either like this over Zoom um, or we can just meet them in person. If anyone knows anybody, type of referral type thing. Oh, they'd be good for this role or that role. I think the first episode really has about, I'm trying to count them, probably like 7 or 8 main actors in it. So yeah, trying to get those. I think Chris is going to be the hardest part probably to cast. So
Mm, maybe. Mm,
yeah,
maybe, baby. Maybe. And I'm not going to ask you who you have in mind because you're like me. I write for actors. Like I can see an actor,
yeah,
and I'm like, I haven't seen him in. I haven't seen him in a western, and then I'm like, then I'll go, then I'll write a western because that's how my brain works. Or I haven't seen them in a romance. And that's how my brain works. So I'm not going to ask you that. I don't want to put any pressure on that
oh no,
for
no.
you. But
I
find
do like it when actors play against type. So whenever you see someone who's like, oh, they're mostly a dramatic actor, and you see them do a comedic role, that's what I would really like to see for Chris's dad, especially. But yeah, there were certain actors where I told uh, Paris, I go, this actor looks exactly like he'd be your dad. He's got the same hair and eyebrows. I go, we got to get him. I go, hopefully we can get him. He's a New York-based actor, but we can try and find, because he has his own ethnic background, so I know what he kind of would look like, and I kind of want to make him, you know, uh, Irish Italian mix, double Catholic type. So
like
yeah, I know.
when okay, well, this goes right into my next question. um, when you're developing with talent in mind, how does that change your writing muscle? Do you lean in or do you pull back? So if like Loretta Devine, like would
Yeah.
you lean into the strengths that you know that she has, or do
Oh
you?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If she played the mom on the show, I mean, that would be so much fun to write, for, and I'd really want to give her a lot of good one liner type things. But yeah, especially because a lot of for the parents, I really want to get good comedic actors or comedians who can do that type of role, who are really good as guest stars that you don't see in a lot of things, or they just don't work as much in TV or whatever the situation may be. A lot of times they'll be in things and you won't even know about it. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, they're in this random show or whatever. And I'll hear about things and I'll be, oh, well, I definitely got to see it now if so and so's in it. Um, you know, uh, so I like to lean into it a lot more. But it is fun to just let them, cut them loose and let them do what they want.
Because sometimes you get some of the best stuff if you kind of just let them. play around with the line or play around with it. And yeah.
Mhm.
Um, what does success for the series actually look like to you? Longevity, cultural impact, or pure chaos?
I mean, the first one would be as if, um, just seeing it being greenlit, like getting the money to make it to begin with. And then number two would be is because it's only going to go two different ways. It's like one is if we make it and then we're able to sell it right off the bat to somebody, to a streamer, to a network, and it gets made that way. And they say, okay, we'll order so many episodes, for the first season. And then the number two is if everyone says no and they reject it, then putting it on YouTube and going and building it up, trying to get it to go viral and get the actors and all the producers and everybody involved to, build it from the ground up and have someone come back to it and say, oh, okay, well, this has, 100,000 hits or whatever, obviously want to see it or, doing it that way. And then going back to the other way, hopefully getting, um, big name producer on or somebody because you look at like the Miss Pat show and you see there's like 12 executive producers. It's crazy nowadays with TV shows how many producers there are.
I
Um,
guess if you sign on for the show, I thought it down. I thought that what it is now is that you sign on for the show and you bring something, you can say also and put it in my contract and be a executive producer. Like I was like, is that what Hollywood is now? Like you sign on,
yeah,
you bring something, they can say, hey, also add me as an executive producer.
Yeah, it's crazy because you'll see people who are just random Hollywood stars and some people, directors who like they also executive produce this show or whatever, this show, that show, and the other one. And I'm like, they're just getting random cuts of everything and it's going on this network or that network or it's on streaming and back and forth. So it's really random. I never understood that business the way it's like that. It's like it's very much someone's got their hand in the pies there. But yeah, it's really weird. So
Well, when you're ready to have it, when it's out, when it's greenlit, when you filmed it, whichever way you go, please come back so you can tell
okay,
me how it went because now I want to know how it went, like all the steps and how you got the casting and the moving toward production and the funding and all of that, to kind of teach us in the audience and the newbies and everything how it really is creating your own series and then going for it,
yeah,
even if that means you have to break down the door and build the table yourself to do it.
oh
So
yeah.
and come back when you have a chance with that. So, what conversations do you hope Masc Couple starts that mainstream sitcoms still avoid?
I think just, the fact that it's not like necessarily a political show, but there are political points that are made on the show. The Miss Pat show is much more topical and it's very like, this episode we're going to talk about, whatever they were talking about.
Yeah, it's in your
One of
face
them,
on this Pat show. Like she
oh
kind
yeah,
of juices what the show is going to be about before it starts. Yeah.
yeah. And that's kind of where I'm like, I don't want the show to be like that. I want it to be much more, it's about them,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, obviously the world comes in, around them at times, but I don't want it to be like a preachy or judgy type show,
Or you
type
want
of
it to be
thing.
more organic, which I felt
Hmm.
the pilot episode is more organic feel of what their dynamics are, what kind of the concerns are, and where they're going. So it was more organic to me in the pilot script that I read.
Yeah,
So I think you have I think you have that down. If it's going to keep going that way, I think you have it down. That's the difference that I did see in that.
yeah.
You've been writing for over 13 years and you've worked across comedy, consulting, and media. What version of you first realized I'm a writer? I'm a writer, not just someone who writes.
Mm. I think like just growing up and like watching my favorite TV shows and movies and being and just always having that sort of light bulb in my head where it's like, well, why didn't they do this? Or why didn't they do that? Or I love this character. I would love to see more of them, I wish they would do an episode about this or write a sequel about that. or getting mad and being, it's like, oh, my favorite show, they ended it, and I don't know how it ended. It just got canceled. It's like having that light bulb in your brain where it's being like, well, I can do it better. It's like, well, I
Mhm.
can have fix this type of thing. And that's kind of just where it started, and just having those ideas, especially with stories growing up, characters that I liked, and reading certain things and being like, oh well, I would love it to see them do this or do that, like this other character, or like on this other show. It'd be neat to see them get into this kind of adventure, or whatever the situation may be. Just living that way in your imagination, being like, it's like, you don't just write it out, it's like you actually do it. You write it. Yeah, you have an idea and a story, and people ask me that. It's like, how do you write? Well, it's like everyone has stories. Like,
Everyone
something's
has
always,
stories. Yeah,
it's like, it's
yeah.
just, is it interesting enough to where people would want to read about it or see it? It's like, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's boring. It's like something that happens to you at work or whatever. But it's just changing it from someone's point of view or whatever, how it is. It's like, everyone has stories. It's just, can you write them out? Can you tell them?
Yeah. Can you sit behind a keyboard and do it and get it out and be in every character's head and have a plot and have a dialogue and have the background actors moving and all that stuff. And yeah, it takes some time. You started off as a production consultant on a British drama, The Ends. How did that environment shape the way you approach comedy today?
Well, that was really odd because, I didn't know anything about, I mean, I like British music, and growing up, listening to, the British invasion, and, British music from the 50s and 60s. And, but I didn't really know anything about their culture. Like, I didn't watch a lot of British TV or movies, like Monty Python and things like that. So I didn't really know their dramas. So it's like, well, the drama I knew that was big at the time in the early 2000s, um, was a lot of period stuff. It was a lot of World War II, Winston Churchill type. It wasn't modern stuff. That stuff doesn't come popular over here in America. It wasn't until, like, a lot later on that certain shows would come over here and things like that. Um, so seeing how, going and watching their stuff and seeing how they did it versus us, because a lot of times I'm watching a British drama and they're, acting all tough and and I'm just laughing in my head because they're doing it in a funny accent. To me, it's like, you're not tough. You're just saying something in a funny way. And,
Mm.
yeah, you may have a gun or a knife or something, but it's making me laugh. So,
I
so
can
it's like, okay,
see that.
well, taking that from that, it's like, how do you make it, more, I don't want it to Americanize it, obviously, but I wanted to, make it, more rough and tough and international. It's like, oh, when all you have to go off of is James Bond movies, it's kind of hard. So,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
yeah.
Um, you've been a guest on more than 20 times on XM shows and podcast shows like the Artie Lang Show. What did the live radio teach you about timing that screenwriting never could?
Well, that was the hardest thing because I don't know if anyone else has this, but they had a software where it would mute you. And so if you were talking, I wouldn't be able to talk over you at all. It would just cut my voice out. So I had to wait until they finished talking to, talk back and make my joke or whatever. So learning that timing of when to speak and everything, and then saying, okay, Joseph, like, yeah, like that, because there was that delay to it. That was really tough because it's like, okay, well, I know in my head what I'm going to say, but I have to get there in the way on the phone because there's only certain things that they'll put you on the air for. It's like you talk about topical things. But I know that I want to get over here and make a big joke later on. So I got to,
Hmm.
connect those dots. So doing that on live TV is really hard. It's like trying to make people, laugh. It's like, okay, before I talk about this, I want to mention this or that. It's like, it's fun, but, it can be tricky. So
Well,
especially when it's hundreds of thousands of people,
yeah,
watching, listening, to you on the radio and TV and the internet at the same time. So,
because comedy can be very brutal
oh
and
yeah.
doesn't land immediately. How? when it doesn't land immediately, how did that sharpen your instincts as a writer?
Well, it's great because they make fun of you. So it's like,
Oh,
it,
you get
yeah,
angst a little bit.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like, because my whole thing is with a lot of shows, you'll see this on talk shows. It's like if you can make the host laugh, then everyone else will laugh. So it's like if that was my whole goal is to make the host laugh because he's a comedian. It's like if I can make him laugh, then it'll be okay. If not, he'll make fun of me, and then everyone else will laugh at me. So I go, you're either laughing with me or you're laughing at me. So I go, one or the other. It's like, but as long as they like you, they're going to keep having you on and they're going to say, oh, it's Joseph again. Let's talk to Joseph. That type of thing. They know that they're going to get a laugh either with me or at me. It's a point. So,
And that is the way to do it.
mhm.
That's a good little tidbit for anyone who's looking to kind of enter the fray to be a podcast guest or on a TV show as a guest is kind of like you said, get that host to laugh. and they remember you and like, oh, he's funny. I like him. Let's bring him back on to the show. What approach would you recommend to emerging writers to enter this? Or what the better question is, what approach would you um, tell emerging writers in coming into this industry? Like, what tidbit of encouragement or wisdom would you drop to emerging writers?
I always say that there's always some sort of obscurity in the writing. I go, don't look for the obvious story. I go, sometimes it's the what is it called? The not the backstory, but uh it's like the subplot is a lot more interesting than the main plot. So it's like, where can you go from there? So going to that point and having that can be real interesting. So try to work on that angle. It's like, oh, this, maybe a minor character in some sense, but if it connects with other people and people like it, go on that angle because, you have your main story, whatever it is, a love story, an action, whatever drama or something. But if there's another part of that where people really like and people want to delve into, then try to work on that and see, because someone's going to read that and they'll be like, oh, I really like that, part of it.
I love that. That is great wisdom. Thank you so much, Joseph. Thank you so much for coming on. How would you write?
Thank you.
So, where can people find you, Joseph?
Well, my last name is a little funky because it's Rodriguez with a Q, so you got to go Joseph Rodriguez. People say Quez, but it's just I say Rodriguez. 10x is my Instagram, and then from there it has my threads on there. There's a link for my threads, so you can follow me on there, and that'll have all of it on there. And hopefully, you're going to be starting the fundraising soon for Masc Couple, and the more rich people who can pitch in, the better. I've tried to come up with as many
Yeah.
tiers as possible, of different things I can offer, people short of a kidney. So, um,
So what we're
it's
going to do is I'm going to put the links for where we can find you. And since this is coming out at the beginning of March, if you have the funding link there, we
oh
can
yeah,
you're going to put it here. We're going to put it here, everyone. So pitch in.
oh, yeah.
Okay, this is a wonderful story. This is a wonderful series. It's a breath of fresh air. Okay, come on. Okay, we need
Hope
to.
so.
I want to see everybody on screen. I want everyone to. That's my dream as a screenwriter is to be able to see everyone reflected on screen. And even though we've seen doors open, lately we've seen doors close, where we're not seeing diversity on screen as we used to see it. And we need to kick that door back open because everyone should still be able to see themselves on screen, being loved, being a badass, being a villain, being the funniest person, being whatever. We need to see it all. And so for those creative people out there
And
who
there's so many networks and so many streamers. There's plenty of space for everybody. It's not like there's a
everyone
limit.
it's places for everyone to be now. Amazon, Netflix, I know I'm missing like three networks and Apple,
Mm.
Hulu,
YouTube TV. Yeah.
YouTube. Like it's so many places now where you can uh basically promote or get your series on.
Oh,
So
yeah.
please don't get, depressed at, the state of things, because the world is a little crazy right now. It is. We all know that. And as a creative in this world right now, it can be a little, difficult to sit and write. But sometimes it's the best thing to do is sometimes go and sit, write, be creative, even if I'm talking to all creatives, really. I'm not even talking about just writers. But I did forget to ask you my question, Joseph.
Oh, yeah,
Every person I ask this question before they leave the podcast.
yeah.
Besides, bring yourself back. Come back on, okay? I would love to have you back on for this or whatever next endeavor that you go for. I would love to have you back to talk to the audience, to talk to the newbies who are coming up, to give that wisdom that you just dropped and to give that knowledge that you have. Please come back. But the question that I have to ask you, and I'm going to get off my soapbox, is if you owned the very last Blockbuster movie store, video store, what videos or TV shows or IP would you recommend to your final customers coming in looking for that? Something that, take their mind off things. What IPs would you suggest?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. The TV show is All in the Family. That's definitely one. Because that I think it still holds the record of having the most spin-offs of any other show.
Maud, the Jeffersons,
Hmm.
oh my
Archie
God,
Bunker's Place,
yes,
Gloria, which people don't
Gloria,
remember, and it had
Good
Good
Time,
Times, which was a spinoff of a spinoff,
off
which nobody
of
does
Maud, yeah.
nowadays.
Hmm.
Yeah, which nobody does nowadays. So yeah, and when he got All in the Family, NBC went to him and said, "Hey, can you come up with another show?" And that's when he came up with Sanford and Son. So
Oh yes, I forgot Sanford and Son.
yeah, so that wasn't a spinoff, but that was the same Norman
Yeah,
Lear. But yeah, yeah, so it's crazy. So definitely that show, because you see all those great guest stars in there, especially in the beginning, all the ones who got their own spinoffs. Maude was first, and then just spiraled from there.
I just
But
had
yeah,
this thought. I just had this thought, just I'm sorry to interrupt you. Wouldn't it have been something to see Archie Bunker meet Fred Sanford?
oh yeah. Well, they had what's his name, who just passed away. Not Lionel. Who was
The,
it that played
the,
his
the
son?
gentleman who played Lionel, right?
No, no, no. The one who played Fred Sanford's son on Sanford and Son. Um, he just passed away.
Yes, he did. Yeah, yeah.
He was on an early episode of All in the Family. He plays a robber in their house, and that's where they had him in mind for that show. But yeah, that would have been great if they had a crossover. I don't know how that would have worked since they're on different networks. I don't think they did that very much back then. But uh,
It
yeah,
would
that would have been cool to see them.
it would have been so cool to see. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh
So,
no, no.
All in the Family, and then what was the second IP?
Is Dirty Harry Magnum Force, Clint Eastwood from the
Oh,
70s, same from the 70s.
mm-hmm.
So
I love
that
it.
was such a risque, provocative movie series when it came out. Um, that's a really good one. I would love to write a reboot of that, a modern reboot. I don't know if his son would be interested in doing it. Scott Eastwood, he's a great actor, but um, yeah,
I
that
was
would
just
be
going to
great.
ask you, who would you cast?
I would like to see his son play the Dirty Harry role again, because that was a great one that had a lot of great other actors in those movies. Hal Holbrook was in the second one, and Tyne Daly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, oh yeah, a lot of great actors in there. Um, you get so many great lines. Make my day, and
Make my day. Oh,
so funny.
you know what? I need to get some T-shirts with me. Make my day on it. Oh, that would be so nice. But yeah, I those are great shows, and they definitely would take you out of. One thing I loved about All in the Family is like you said, it gives you kind of a moral story. What? Okay, I don't know how that happened. It gives you a moral story. I don't know what happened. Oh,
It's like in the meeting, you raise your hand.
yeah,
Yeah.
raise my hand. It gives you some kind of moral, ethical lesson when you walk away from All in the Family without it jumping down your throat. And I
Yeah.
and I appreciated that about All in the Family. Because
Right.
Archie was growing and learning and being a better person, or fighting it. he was fighting it, but I loved All in the Family. That was one of my favorite shows too. So I just appreciate that. We're kind of alike in the head on about that show. Dirty Harry, watched that, and Clint Eastwood was just, I had a crush on him when I was a little kid. So I just knew I was going to marry Clint Eastwood, and when I got older, I just knew I was going to marry him. But dreams do not come true sometimes.
He had a few wives, so yeah, I think he's on
he
the right
had
number
more. He
two.
had a lot of wives. That man married a lot of women. But with that being said, Joseph, thank you so much for coming on. And we will be having all the links below. And people, please, 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 please donate and support this type of work, because this is what we need. We need to keep supporting different stories, diverse stories. We need to support people who are as creative and as thoughtful as Joseph. Like, whoever thought about writing a series around holidays and birthdays? And I never thought about that, especially in this industry. That is so brilliant that I just know that it's going to take off. And I, Joseph, wish you so, 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 so much good luck with this. Anything I can do to like promote it or, champion it for you, just ask. I'm excited for you on this. I believe in you for this. So you got this, sir. Keep it moving. I am going to cheerlead you on this, and I pray that everyone else does too, because it's so
Thanks.
worth it.
Oh, thank you so much for thanks for having me on.
Thanks again, everyone. And we're going to end it here, and we'll see you next time on How Would You Write It?